Today we begin with Psalm 68. Psalm 68 is again just a very simple glorification psalm. So let God arise, let his enemies be scattered. Let them that hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melted before fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of God. It's about the holiness, justice, the majesty of God. That it's sing unto God, sing praises to extol him that rideth upon the heavens. His name is Yah, and rejoice before him. Rejoice is the key word here that we're looking at in this psalm. The father of the fatherless, and the judge of the widows is God in his holy habitation. He setteth the solitary in families. He brings out those which are bound with chains, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. And the heavens shook, the heavens also dropped in the presence of God. Even Sinai itself was moved. We see a lot of majesty and again a lot of just the glory of God. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels, and the Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. So he goes on and on again with this glorification of God in this psalm. He that is our God is the God of salvation, and unto God the Lord belongs the issues from death. But God will wound the heads of his enemies, and the hair scalp of those as one as goes still in his trespasses. The Lord said, I will bring again unto Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea. He will take care of his people. They have seen thy goings, O God, even the goings of my God, my King, in the sanctuary. The singers went before, the players on instruments followed after. Among them were the damsels playing with their timbrets. The idea of you get this emotives going, you get these picture forms, these figuratisms of dance, of exultation. Rebuke the company of spearmen with the multitude of the bulls and the calves of the people, till every one submit himself with the pieces of silver. Scatter thou the people that delight in war. So again, he goes on singing unto God for the heavens. So this is again one of those psalms about Elohim, about the glory of Yah, about the glory of Jehovah. A very worshipful psalm. When we go back to the book of Numbers, we're picking up, we just finished with this backstory, this side story of the Moabites and the Midianites with Balaam and how they tried to get the prophet Balaam to curse the people. And again, we saw a little bit in Josephus, how that he couldn't curse the people because God was not cursing them. But according to Josephus, which is a history book, which gives us more detail, that he said, but I can get them to curse themselves. And he went and had Moab and the Midians dress up their women and bring them out in beautiful attire and beautiful, the makeup on their face, and to really seduce the men away. And they did, to the point that the thousands were moving away and going to worship another god. And we see that turned terrible, and the Israelites turned against those people for the glory of God, and many died that day from the people standing for God and from a plague which God sent among his people. When we pick up chapter 26, again, we talked earlier about those that we did a census at the beginning of the book to find out who could go to war between 20 and 50. Who would be going to war? So they counted those men, and we got the number 603,000. I think it's 603,730. You'll see they do another census now that it's been 38 years. Now that all of those people have fallen dead, except for Joshua and Caleb, and Moses is still alive. Aaron is dead. So they do a count, and in 26 they do this summary again. They go through family by family, talking and giving numbers, and you'll find when they're done with their census in 26 that the numbers are only like 180,000 shy. Not 180,000, sorry, I read that wrong. About 1,800 shy of where they were. So the idea that the numbers almost replaced the army that chose not to follow. He almost replaced them man for man in 38 years. And indeed, he said that it would be the children that you were trying to protect. They will be the ones who will go in, and you will be left out. So it goes through here. In chapter 27, we see something very powerful. The daughters of Zephalahed. There was a man named Zephalahed. He was of the unbelieving, but his daughters, they said, well, we have a problem because our father had no sons. Do we not get an inheritance? So Moses took this to the Lord, and the Lord agreed with the daughters of Zephalahed. And their names were Mahal, Noah, Hogloth, Michal, and Tirzah. And he agreed with them and said yes, and he gave women the right to own and possess land in the inheritance. If a man didn't have any sons, it would fall to the daughters. If it didn't have any children at all, it would fall to his brethren or to his uncles. And then it would stay in the line. Now, this only worked if the daughters married within the tribe. If they married outside of the tribes, they lost their inheritance. So, again, God cares about, when I say women's rights, I'm saying the rights of women, the rights of females, the legal rights to possess land. This is a very important thing. Prosperity is in owning land. You can rent it out, you can farm it, you can build on it, you can create houses and estates. Having land is very important because then you can pass that down. We were meant to be people of generational wealth. Unfortunately, we're a people of go make your own wealth. When you get 18, go make your own way. We should have been building family structures that passed wealth down from generation, not saying go get your own. So we see that in 27, the daughters of Zephalahed. And God goes back in 28. He's going back to remind them of certain burnt offerings. Again, he does a refresher course to remind them of the type of burnt offerings you're going to do. Again, with Deuteronomy, when we get to it, it will be a second retelling of the law for this new generation. So he's reminding them here, this new generation, about how they're to do the burnt offerings and and what they're supposed to do. And he's very precise. You'll bring in, at the beginning of your months, you'll bring in 2 bullocks and 1 ram, 7 lambs, 3/10 deal of flour for 1 bullock, 2/10 deal of flour, and for the meat offering mingled with oil for 1 ram. So he gets very specific upon how he wants this done. And we also see that that he goes on, and it's very specific. And we also see that in 29, he starts reminding them of the feast days, reminds them of Passover, reminds them of first fruits, reminds them of the wave offerings that they do, reminds them of what they're supposed to do on Pentecost, which is 40 days after first fruits. And again, reminding them of the fall feast that they have up, that they have one right which will become the beginning of the year. They have the Day of Atonement. They have the Day of Trumpets. Well, Day of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and have the Tabernacle, which is called Booths. They have those 7 feasts. He's going over those feasts again with them. So the idea is that he is he is going over this again for a new generation. And we need to read that. We need to see and notice how specific he is. I love how that when he's talking about these offerings, when he gets to Booths, for example, there is 7-day feast, but every day you start with a certain number of bullocks, and that type of bullock goes down by day. So you have this certain number of bullocks, then you'll have a certain number of lambs and rams, but you'll diminish the bullocks on each day. I think you start with 13 on the first day, 12 on the second. And he's very clear about that. It says, for example, on the 4th day, 10 bullocks, 2 rams, 14 lambs of the first year. Their meat offerings and the drink offerings for the bullocks, for the rams, will be according to their number, and 1 kid of goats for the sin offering. And then on the 6th day, it says on the 5th day, you'll have 9 bullocks, 2 rams, 14 lambs of the first year. So very specific. You'll find again, just like we saw earlier, when we saw where God was specific about every nation, every tribe, bringing in the same exact type of offering when they were offering. Remember, we talked about they brought in the carts, and they had to bring a certain type of spoon and a golden this, and they needed to bring certain utensils. And every tribe brought the same thing. Same type of bullock, same type of oxen, same type of cart, the same type of utensils. And he's very specific. Again, in this chapter 29, he's being very specific And we need to notice again when we see all this that we shouldn't glaze over God being specific. Because he is a specific, he is an ordered God, he is a God of expectation, he is a God who delights in the design. If we would line up inside of the design of what God has for us, as opposed to just kind of glazing over and kind of picking what we want for ourselves. But really, the beauty of this grid work is not for me to see what's for me, not for me to see what I can use and how I can apply, but to see God in his nature, to see him revealing something about himself, seeing him caring even to the extent of making sure that the offerings are done in just a certain way. We find out that these people are so easy to rebel. They're so easy to go follow another God, that he's keeping them very regimented here to create this devotion. This is a new nation. This is a group of people who have not known this God. And we have to realize that, yeah, it's very difficult for them to do without water for 3 days and to face what they're facing. But God is jealous for them with a holy jealousy, and he loves them. But also, he will judge them. He will judge them harshly if necessary. And it sounds awkward to say that God is loving on the one hand, but wrathful on the other. But he's loving for those who will obey and see the value of who he is and what he's doing. But he's wrathful to the sinners. And we'll see also that it's either goodness or badness. There isn't a sense of, well, there's a medium bad and a medium good. You're either good or you're bad. And the badness has been very, very bad. I was wanting to tell you about Zimri, who, when he had got the Midianite woman, he's mentioned in 25, they don't tell you, but Josephus does, how verbally violent he was to Moses. He did not want to be a part of Israel anymore. He said Moses was leading them down the wrong path, that he was a free agent. He could do whatever he wanted. We get the idea in the scriptures that Zimri just took a woman, was going into his tent, and then here comes Phinehas. There had been a discourse. You'll get some backstory if you get the book of Joseph. You'll get more understanding about what God does and why he does it. But these men and women were pushing for their own freedom from their God. They wanted another God, and God would not allow that. He would not allow them to worship another God in his presence because he had made a covenant with them. God is a jealous God. So when we see the detail here, we also recognize the character of who God is. So let's not again gloss this over. Make sure you're reading it. Make sure you're reading every word. Even if it sounds repetitious, it's good for your mind. It's good for your biblical understanding to go ahead and read it, learn it. There are parts of this that I'll admit are very technical, but embrace the technicality. We do that when we're dealing with automobiles, when we're dealing with any kind of structure of anything. There are technicalities to everything, but we need to understand and embrace the technicalities because they reveal the wonder of this creator God who's created this nation, who's created this philosophy, who's created this belief so that he might reveal himself not just to this nation, but to all of us. So let's love this book. Let's read this book. Let's see what's on the grid and honor our God. Thank you.